Oh boy, apparently I have struck a nerve with the Notre Dame contingent. Boy, oh boy, I did a short video on my Instagram page on Come On Now podcast on Instagram, and I got 80 or so replies just from Notre Dame crybabies trying to justify how losing to someone makes you better than them. They have really gone out of their way to try to prove themselves to me or to whoever they want to prove themselves to that they are better than someone because they lost. You know how much an education at Notre Dame costs? The Notre Dame education costs $67,100 according to AI. Now, I don't know if that includes housing, but actually, when you look at their website, it's if you include room and meals, room and board, it comes up to $86,000 to go to Notre Dame. Yet they have some of the dumbest motherfuckers on the face of planet Earth who are their fans. So I can presume that those people probably never stepped foot on the campus before because they'd be too damn dumb to get in. Like, seriously, next level dumb. I'm not having this conversation and the things I've had to say about this situation with the CFP. Had Notre Dame beaten Miami, because you know what? I'm intelligent enough to know that if you beat me and we have the same record, you should be ranked ahead of me. Period. Period. It doesn't matter when you beat me. It doesn't matter when you lost, when I lost. It doesn't matter. You beat me, you're ranked ahead of me. It's that simple. But only to the dumb people of Notre Dame do they somehow find a way to justify losing with the excuses. I mean, from the we had a redshirt freshman quarterback. Oh my God. Well, let me give you something. Let me remind you something here. But before we do that, welcome back everyone to another edition of Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I am your host, Rudy Rodriguez Showman. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring this bell, leave your comments. Notre Dame fans, I welcome you. I want you here. You're helping me in the algorithm on Instagram. Help me in the algorithm on YouTube. Have I triggered you enough? You sorry pieces of human garbage? Yeah, I'm calling all of y'all that. All of y'all. Because that's what I think of the Fighting Irish, the little dirty looking green leprechaun. Yeah, that's what I think of y'all. Because you don't even have, you lack so much credibility, integrity, and ethics that you can't even acknowledge reality. I can't help that the committee of 80-year-olds and dummies that don't watch football, read stat boxes, don't actually watch football games. Because guess what? I've probably watched more football games than all of you Notre Dame fans, and definitely more than these imbeciles on the committee. I watch on average about 10 football games every Saturday. Every Saturday, I've seen Alabama play multiple times, Ohio State play multiple times, Indiana play multiple times. Obviously, I've seen Miami play every single game they've played. I've watched Notre Dame play multiple times. How many games have y'all watched Miami play, Notre Dame fans? I'm venturing to guess probably none, because we give you nightmares over the opener in this season where you were the defending runner-ups to the national championship last year, right? Remember? You were the defending runner-ups. In fact, you were favored in the game against Miami. You were favored. You remember that? You were the favorite. Favorite. You were favored. You were the favorite. You were supposed to beat us, right? You lost to us, though. In fact, you were down 24-10 in the fourth quarter. 21-7, 24-10. You were getting drug. And then Mario Cristobal did Mario Cristobal things, turn off the offense, and kind of let y'all back in the game. But then, and yet still, we came back and marched right down the field at the end of the game, kicked the field goal, and beat your ass. I got you. You had the ball again at the end, and guess what? Our defensive ends made CJ Carr pay. Hey, that's what happened. And then 2 weeks later, you choked your ass off again against Texas A&M, right? Yeah, you choked your asses off there too, because I watched that game also. I watched you score, muff your extra point, and then on 4th and goal from the 11-yard line, I watched your DB get smacked in the fucking head by the receiver for Texas A&M and give up a game-losing touchdown. Yeah, I watched that too. No one knew that Texas A&M would be 11-0 right now when you lost. We all know this. We all know this. You were favored in that game too. So you lost 2 games as a favorite. Ain't that something? Because that's what Miami's been criticized for, is losing games as a favorite. But yet we won games as an underdog against you, in fact. SMU, this is this horrible loss against an unranked team. SMU is sitting right now ranked at number 21, likely going to go to the ACC championship, likely going to win the ACC and be in the playoffs. But our loss to SMU is a horrible loss on the road, on their field, in overtime, no less. In a game that we led by 3 with under a minute to go, where officials made decisions, but I don't blame officials. We blew that game. Louisville, we blew that game too. We lost by 3 and by 6 in overtime. We've never given up more than 26 points in a single game this year. You gave up 30 to Purdue. You give up 30 to Purdue. 2-9 Purdue. You played a 2-9 Purdue, a 2-9 Arkansas, and a 1-10 Boston College. Boston College, you only led them 12-10 with 38 seconds to go in the third quarter. But yet, y'all will sit here and say you were playing better than us a month ago. Not even a month ago. Because that's when you played Boston College. That's the bullshit comes out of Joey Galloway's mouth, right? But let me educate you guys, Notre Dame, because I know you're a little slow, little slow in the brain. And this is by no means to students at Notre Dame, because I know students at Notre Dame are probably more intelligent and understand that if A beats B and A and B have the same record, A should be ranked ahead of B. Or if B beats A and B and A have the same record, B should be ranked ahead of A. It's not very complicated. It's literally in the criteria of the committee. That's what makes this so ridiculous. If that wasn't in their criteria as literally the second top thing on their criteria, it's really the first. It's really the first, because you can tell me about the strength of schedule of Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's schedule strength is built on Texas A&M, a team that has not played a team in the top 8, does not have a win over a team in the top 8 of the SEC. That's who Texas A&M is. The toughest game in the SEC this year will be on Saturday against Texas on the road, a game that they'll probably lose. And if they do lose, that actually has a negative impact on Notre Dame and their strength of schedule, because you're finishing the season at Stanford, who's 4-7. You beat Syracuse 70-7. Fucking congratulations. You had 3 touchdowns on defense before the games and such things before your offense hit the field. And CJ Carr threw for 49 yards. Yeah, I know. That's what happened. I saw it. Like I said, I watch football. I watch football. I watch more football than the committee. I promise you that. Do I think Notre Dame belongs in the playoffs? Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think Notre Dame's better than a lot of teams in the playoffs. But I'm not comparing Notre Dame to the other teams in the playoffs. I'm comparing Notre Dame to Miami. And that's the real conversation. Do I think Notre Dame's better than Alabama? Yeah, I do. Do I think Notre Dame's better than Oregon? Yeah, I do. Do I think Notre Dame's better than Ole Miss? Yeah, I do. I do. I think they're better than a bunch of these teams. Do I think Notre Dame's better than Georgia? Probably. You see, I'm objective and I'm real. I'm not unethical. I have integrity. I have integrity. So when I make my arguments and I speak my mind, I am not speaking from a perspective of saying that Notre Dame doesn't belong in the playoffs. They do. They do. They do. They're better than Oklahoma. But you know what? Miami's better than Alabama. Miami has a common opponent to Alabama, Florida State. Miami kicked Florida State's ass on the road. Alabama got drugged by Florida State. 14-point favorite, lost by 14 points. Yeah, that happened. And they have an identical record to Miami too. So the fact that Alabama is ranked ahead of Miami as well is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yeah. See, I'm real. Are you? Yeah. I've watched Oregon play. Their best win of the season was USC, a team you played. USC is not that good. They're so not that good. They're so not that good that ESPN, the worldwide leader in Notre Dame love, Joey Galloway and others, they called Pittsburgh your best win, not USC, despite USC being ranked higher, even right now. So, yes, I do think Notre Dame is a top 16, probably, maybe top 5, top 4, possibly. But you know what I also think? I think Miami's a top 5 team. And I know that Miami beat Notre Dame. And I understand that Miami created their own problems. But if you put Miami against Oregon on the field, I think Miami beats the brakes off of Oregon. If you put Miami in the field with Ole Miss, I think Miami kicks Ole Miss's ass. I think if you put Miami in the field with Oklahoma, Alabama, who have the same record as Miami, which makes it more ridiculous because Miami beat Florida State. Florida State beat Alabama. Oklahoma beat Alabama. Texas crushed Oklahoma. And Florida beat the brakes off Texas. And Miami crushed Florida. 3-8. Only in the SEC can you lose to a 3-8 school and still be a playoff contender. Only in the SEC can you lose to a 5-6 ACC school and be a playoff team. Only in the ACC, only in the SEC. Yeah. But let me bring back to where we were going earlier. Miami, when Miami played you, Notre Dame, I know you were favored in that game. So Vegas had y'all to win. You expected to win, I am sure. You had a great team returning. You have a Heisman level running back in your backfield. Jeremiah Love is a monster. What did Jeremiah Love do against Miami? I'll wait. I mean, you know what happened, right? Jeremiah Love. I mean, shit. My memory. I gotta look it up because I want to be exact with his statistics in that game because I remember that it might have been the worst game that Jeremiah Love has had at Notre Dame. In fact, let's do a little quick search real fast just to confirm how bad that game was in comparison to the rest of his season. Against the Miami Hurricanes, Jeremiah Love had 10 carries for 33 yards. He had his lowest average per carry this season by 0.8 tenths of a yard. Miami shut him down. Miami shut him down. It is the worst game Love has played all season by a mile. Jeremiah Love in that game combined receiving and running 59 total yards. Against Texas A&M, 2 weeks later, he had 147 yards of offense. Against Purdue, 157. Against Arkansas, 127. Against Boise State, 114. Against NC State, 86. SC, 65 yards. 166 against Boston College. Hell, one of those was like a 94-yard run in that game, by the way. I remember that run. Otherwise, you would have won that game, 17-10, 18-10, 19-10, something like that? Yeah. 94 and 27. What is that? 121 against Navy, 167 against Pitt, and 171 against Syracuse. Miami held your boy to 59 total yards. Is that the worst game of his career as a starter? No, actually, no, it's not. The worst game of his as a starter was when y'all beat Florida State last year, 52-3. And he had 19 yards rushing. I don't know if he got hurt in that game or what. I don't know. I don't recall. I mean, he had 3 yards versus Ohio State, but he got hurt in the game, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure. Don't remember that specifically. But this year, worst game of his life. Worst game of his season. Not even close. Not even close. Let me also remind you of something else. Because I had these are the comments from the Notre Dame contingent, the very unintelligent individuals who don't actually use objectivity and data in discussion and debate. See, I can deal with you disagreeing with Miami being ranked better than Notre Dame or being ranked ahead of Notre Dame. I don't even care if you think Notre Dame's better than Miami because that's not what matters. What matters is that they actually played on the field. And it doesn't matter if you think they're better. That's the problem with the CFP is that it's supposed to eliminate your brain and what you think, because you know who was better in the 2002 national championship game? If they played 100 times, Miami probably beats Ohio State 99. But you know what? That one specific day of the year, Ohio State won the national championship. We all know about the referee call, but I'll be objective. Ohio State outplayed Miami for pretty much that entire game, outside of about a 12-minute stretch. Really, that was about it. Because for the most part, Ohio State outplayed Miami. They also blew out Willis McGahee's knee, which helped them. But Miami was a massive favorite in that game. Miami was expected to win the game easily. I can go another one because I'm a Hurricane fan. I know this very well. Miami versus Alabama in 1992. Miami was a massive favorite in that game as well. No, like no one expected Bama to win that game, but they did. How about in 1986, Penn State in Miami? Again, humongous favorite. Penn State got the job done despite having 150 yards of offense. So they play the game for a reason. The games are played for a reason, especially in college. So whether you think Notre Dame is better or if they even are better, it doesn't matter because when you played Miami, you lost to Miami. That's what matters. That's what it is at the end of the day. This is not the NFL. This is not a best of 7 series. In fact, Notre Dame fans should be begging for Miami to make the playoffs. Notre Dame fans should be begging for Miami to be the number 8 seed, actually, and be a home game so that Notre Dame can come back to the scene of the crime where we kicked your ass and want that get back. But you don't. You don't really want it. You talk like you want it, but you don't really want it. Because if you did, you wouldn't be saying, ooh, you need some tissues. Ooh, I thought you were about to cry. Ooh, blase, blase. See, people that have confidence and belief in oneself want to get the get back. And the get back is in Hard Rock. It ain't in South Bend. It's in Hard Rock. It's in Miami. That's where you got beat. Show us you're better. Do it. We want to see it. Prove it. Prove it. Instead, you'll talk about it. You won't prove it. You won't beg for it. See, Notre Dame should be begging for it because that's what a real man does. That's what real competitors and dogs do. Instead, y'all would rather not see us because you know you don't want to see us. It's okay. I understand. It's the same reason that Oklahoma didn't want to see us in the year 2000 when FSU magically catapulted Miami in the final computer poll of the year after being behind Miami for weeks after, I don't know, Miami had beaten them as well. Yeah, that happened too. And then FSU lost to Oklahoma in the national championship, and Miami never got that opportunity because Oklahoma knew that Miami would whoop their ass in that game. They knew it. Everyone knew it. Miami was playing better football, as y'all are saying, than anybody in the country at that time. And in fact, Miami had already beaten Florida State and was playing better football than anybody in the country. Everyone knew it, except for some computers. Now, in this case, you have a committee who takes the place of computers and uses the eye test. Well, if you've been watching football, the eye test would tell you that Alabama, for example, has struggled almost every single week against every single team that they've played. Struggled. Have 2 losses, lost to a freaking 14-point underdog and lost by 14. An under 500 team. Notre Dame, 25-10 to Boston College. Stop acting like you've played some gauntlet of teams. Texas A&M hasn't played anybody since they played you. Nobody. And the same way that people on ESPN like Joey Galloway and all these other clowns will say, well, Miami collapsed against SMU and collapsed against Louisville. Well, number one, Miami never led the Louisville game. Number one. That's number one. Never led the game. But you led versus Texas A&M and you lost on your home field. You had a tie game with Miami in the last possession. You couldn't make a stop. So did you collapse back-to-back weeks to start the season? I'm just wondering. It's always a really interesting way that they phrase certain things. Collapsed, resounding win. Utah had a resounding win over Kansas State after giving up almost 500 yards of rushing. But let me bring you back to the because I'm going on tangents because this is I mean, hey, this is one of those topics in which, hey, you talk a lot, but let's go back to the Miami game because Carson Beck. Let me give you a little education about Carson Beck because you have a redshirt freshman that hadn't played, right? Well, Carson Beck had never played for Miami. I don't care if he was a freaking sixth-year senior or fifth, whatever he is. I don't care because most of y'all thought he sucked. In fact, people still say he sucks. People say, oh, he throws tons of picks. He had 2 games where he threw some picks. And yes, one of those picks was a drop by one of his teammates that would have been a touchdown that turned the SMU game around. 2 of those picks against Louisville were great throws and great plays made by Louisville players. The final pick of the game was a hot read, and the damn tight end did not run the right route. These are facts. They're not fiction. They're not feelings. They're facts. I can give the other team credit for making a play. Maybe some Hurricanes fans can't do that because they don't have it in them, but I can because I'm objective and I'm ethical and I have integrity. I use that word integrity and ethics a lot because realistically, that's what this is all about. There's a lack of integrity and ethics on this committee. They're guided by money, even though the Miami Hurricanes draw as many or more people to watch their games as almost any team in the nation, maybe except for Notre Dame. And Miami merch has always been very popular, even as a 500 team for the last 20 years. But Carson Beck was long to be considered trash by many people. Carson Beck had surgery on a torn elbow. He did not practice in the spring. He did not practice in the summer. He got about 3 weeks max of practice in the fall with 5 brand new wide receivers because Miami had no returning wide receivers from last year's team that actually played real ball. These are facts. Malachi Tony is a freshman. He was 17 years old and he kicked your ass in the season opener. He, 17-year-old kid, whooped y'all adults' ass. Cool. Keelan Marion wasn't part of the Hurricane program last year. CJ Daniels wasn't part of the Hurricane program last year. Tony Johnson wasn't a part of the Hurricane program last year. Joshua Moore is a freshman. The only guy, Dalen Upshaw, young dude, didn't play last year. I don't think he's a freshman. He might be a freshman too. I'm not even sure. Only guy that came back that had played any minutes was JoJo Trader, and he was a 5th-string wide receiver this year. 5th string. He's like the 5th wide receiver they got. So you're running out there with a bunch of brand new dudes who haven't played at Miami, have not played under this offense, and had 3 weeks of prep work with their quarterback. But your quarterback was at Notre Dame last year. Your quarterback was there in the spring. Your quarterback was there in the summer. He was throwing the ball. These things happened. Miami at running back. We don't got running backs like you do. Jeremiah Love is better than all our running backs, probably combined. I acknowledge it. And then we brought in Gerard Pringle later in the season. You see what that kid has done. He didn't play against y'all. He'd be the starter today. Miami's tight end issues. Don't have very good ones. So when you talk about how you came in with a new coordinator, a new this, a new that, a new quarterback, blase, we came in with the same new shit. In fact, remember our defensive coordinator got fired last year because the Miami Hurricanes couldn't stop a parked car, which is why the Hurricanes did not make the playoffs. It wasn't that they weren't good enough to be there, because they would have put up a very good game against anybody in the country because they were scoring 45 points a game and 500 yards of offense with Cam Ward. A dynamic offense. But you know what? The defense couldn't stop a freaking runny nose. And so the committee decided to put us behind a 3-loss Alabama that had just lost 24-3 to Oklahoma, and finished their season a week later with a win at a trash can Auburn versus trash can Auburn on their home field. And magically, that jumped Alabama over Miami. Now, Miami still wouldn't have made the playoffs because Clemson did upset SMU, and that got them in. And then the committee decided to keep SMU despite having an 11-2 record. But hey, because apparently losing games in the conference championship don't seem to matter. I'm not sure why. The same way I wouldn't understand why if Alabama lost the conference championship and finished 10-3, how that wouldn't matter. But again, we had a brand new defensive coordinator. We had a whole bunch of new players on defense. We had new guys on offense. We had new everything. Most people thought Miami was going to go 8-4 this year. Most people, because we didn't know what we had down here. And then we played y'all, and Malachi Tony kicked your ass as a freaking 17-year-old freshman. And a quarterback that hadn't played a second of football in 9 months whooped your tail too. But your excuse is that your quarterback was a redshirt freshman. I got you. I understand. Because a week later or 2 weeks later against Texas A&M, how many yards did CJ Carr throw for? Let's see here. How many yards did CJ Carr throw for? A week later, remember, a week later, what did he do? Against Texas A&M, he threw for 293 yards. Your baby freshman had a big ass game against Texas A&M, 20 and 32, 293. Interesting. What happened when he threw for 136 against USC? Was he a baby then? Just curious. Yeah, I thought so. But hey, maybe y'all make the playoffs and maybe Miami doesn't. And you can stand on that and you can puff your chest out and you can be so very, very happy because you ain't going to come see the big bad wolf again. Because you goddamn well know you don't want any taste of Miami again. You can talk it. It's like the guy who wants to fight for the belt but knows the guy who has the belt is going to fucking kick his ass. But he'll talk about it because he wants people to think he wants it. But the reality is he don't want it. He doesn't want the smoke. Notre Dame doesn't want the smoke from the Hurricanes. Yeah, we messed up. We put ourselves in this position. But BYU ain't better than Miami. Bama ain't better than Miami. Oklahoma ain't better than Miami. Ole Miss ain't better than Miami. Oregon ain't better than Miami. Georgia ain't better than Miami. And hell, Notre Dame damn sure ain't better than Miami. The only team in the country that gives me any nerves, believe it or not, is Indiana. That's the team that gives me a little bit nervous. But everybody else, I would take my chances with my Hurricanes against anybody in the country. But do you really want that? Because you say you do in all these comments that I got to read, but I don't hear you chomping at the bit saying, I want Miami, get the Canes in the playoffs. I don't hear Marcus Freeman screaming for the Hurricanes to get in the playoffs. I don't hear him doing that. I wish he would. Because if he did, and he got that treat of playing the Hurricanes again at the Hard Rock this year, maybe y'all get the get back. Maybe you do, or maybe you don't. But we'll never know more than likely because you don't really want to see us. And you would the Notre Dame Fighting Irish would never champion for the Miami Hurricanes. They just call us convicts. They just call us convicts. As if your lily white football players are a bunch of fucking Catholics. Yeah. I'm guessing that most of your football players probably aren't Catholic, probably haven't taken a religion course in most of their lives. Probably ain't been to church all that damn much either. But hey, the slows at Notre Dame, the ones that didn't go to Notre Dame who run their mouths, run away, man. Keep talking. Because God bless, if we do get in, you better pray to God we don't see y'all. That's all I got. I want all y'all comments. I want all y'all smoke. And by the way, remember this, no matter what happens, we still beat you. That's it. We still beat you. And you have to live with that because unless you win the national championship, which we know you're not going to do because you're the eternal choke artists in the big game. You have been since 1988. We know. How many times have you had a chance and choked? Since 1988, just for more education. While the Canes ain't done shit in 20 years. The Canes won in 89, in 91, and in 01. So, yeah. We got 3 rings since y'all won one last in 1988. And you needed a fake fumble against the Hurricanes in South Bend, where everyone knows that if that game was played today, that would have been overturned and called a touchdown and you would have lost. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. God bless you, Notre Dame clowns. I love y'all. You have a great day. Come on now.